Hello and welcome to this introduction to SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is the most in-demand skill in IT, one of the most in demand. It is useful to any company with a database. You can use SQL in hospitals, hotels, banks, retailers, airlines, app development, governments, and so on. Big social media companies like Facebook use SQL to retrieve data from a database. Udemy also utilizes SQL to perform queries on databases. SQL can also be used in banks. Example, Bank of America and other banks will use SQL. The Bank of England also uses SQL because it should have a data. Hospitals also have databases, so SQL will be useful in hospitals. Even Buckingham Palace uses SQL because it has databases. This is a popular computer weekly magazine, computerweekly.com. Here's an article it has published saying SQL is still the most in-demand skill. Here it's saying that list of IT skills demand, SQL is number one. So you can see here from this magazine called computerweekly.com. This is another source, again, saying that SQL is the most in-demand skill. This was in 2012, even far back then. This is another source referring to SQL as the top in-demand skill here. It says UK's top 12 in-demand programming languages. This was in May 2015. And here it's got SQL there as the number one. Again, SQL as number one skill. So it's quite hot. Also gives you there an average salary for £42,500. That's the average salary of an SQL professional. This is another article again saying SQL remains the most in-demand skill, even though this is going back to 2013. So it has maintained its reputation of in-demand skill. This course, you will learn how to use the select statement, which is one of the most used SQL statements. It is used to retrieve data from databases. So if I execute or run this query, what this does, it returns all the data from this employee table. In databases, data are stored in tables. So a select statement is what you're going to be using a lot of the time in your work with SQL, because you're going to use a select to interrogate data, to get data out. Is the most used select SQL statement. You will also learn about aggregate functions, things like the count. The count is used to count like the records or rows in a database column. So if I run this one now, it will give me a count of all the employees from this table. So the aggregate function count is very useful. You will learn about other aggregate functions in this. You will learn how to use things like the where clause to filter data returned from a database, because there may be times you do not want to return all the data from a database. You can use the where clause to filter the information to be returned. In this example here on line 4 and 5, I'm using this select statement to return data from the employees table, and I have filtered the information using the department ID, saying I only want data from department ID 80 returned. So if I execute that, it gives me this value. So it's reduced, or it's filtered the information it has returned from that table. It's only returned a total of 34 rows. So the where clause is used as a filter to restrict what is returned from the database query. You will learn how to connect to the databases using Toad for Oracle. This interface here is called Toad for Oracle Editor. you learn how to install and connect it to a live sample Oracle database. SQL remains one of the hottest skills in IT. So if you want to gain the attraction or the attention of recruiters, gaining SQL skills will be very useful and valuable to your IT skill set. Anywhere you find databases, there is a need for an SQL professional. Almost all companies will have databases. Anywhere where you can save and retrieve information will involve a database of some kind. So anywhere you find a database, SQL professional will come in handy. So I welcome you to this SQL